The Garcia family had been searching for a home on the outskirts of Madrid for months. They wanted to move to a quiet place surrounded by nature, far from the hustle and bustle of the city. Finally, they found an old house in the hills, hidden among the trees. It was large, made of stone, with a somber air that, while unsettling, also piqued their curiosity. The house, built in the early 19th century, had a charm they couldn't ignore. Its stone walls seemed to whisper forgotten stories, and the neglected garden held hidden potential. The price was surprisingly low, and without much hesitation, the Garcias decided to buy it. On their first night in the house, the family dined in the dining room, a spacious area with a dark wooden table that had stood unused for years. Gas lamps hung from the ceiling, casting a dim light that reflected off walls adorned with ancient portraits. The atmosphere was oppressive, as if the place harbored secrets no one should uncover. Javier, the father, enthusiastically began restoring the house. Although the ambience was strange, the creaks of the house and the echoes of his own footsteps were the only things that unsettled him. His wife, Marta, took care of decorating and looking after their children, Laura and Pablo, who explored the vast garden and its surroundings. The first week was calm, though a sense of unease lingered, as if they were constantly being watched. One night, Marta was in the kitchen preparing dinner when she heard a faint whisper, as if someone were calling her name. She looked around but saw no one. The sound seemed to come from the stairs, as though someone was standing on the first floor. It must be the wind, she thought, and continued her tasks. But the whisper repeated. Something wasn't right in the house. Laura was the first to sense a strange presence. One afternoon, while playing in her room, she saw a dark figure in the hallway. At first, she thought it was her brother, Pablo, but when she went to look for him, he was nowhere to be found. The figure vanished as quickly as it appeared. She rubbed her eyes, thinking it was her imagination. However, over the following days, more strange occurrences unfolded. Doors closed on their own, and the wind blew inexplicably, whipping the curtains with force. The basement had a rusty door that Javier had never noticed before. One day, he ventured inside and found an eerie darkness that light could not penetrate. It was as if the light itself feared entering. The walls were damp and moldy, and the air was dense, carrying a metallic odor. In the darkest corner, a wooden chest lay covered in dust. Javier felt an inexplicable attraction to it. When Javier opened the chest, he found something out of a nightmare, old letters written in an unknown language and a silver medallion adorned with arcane symbols. As he held it, an intense cold surged through his body. At that moment, a creak echoed through the house. He turned around but saw no one. Yet the air in the basement grew heavier, as if something unseen was watching him. Heart racing, he shut the chest and tried to leave, but the door wouldn't budge. The lock was jammed, and a low murmur began emanating from the walls. Javier eventually forced the door open and escaped, but an ominous feeling had taken hold of him. That night, dreams began to haunt the family. Javier dreamed of a tall, shadowy figure watching him from the bedroom doorway. Marta dreamed of a woman crying on the stairs, her tears forming dark rivers that flooded everything around her. Laura dreamed the house was sinking into darkness, swallowing her as shadows surrounded her. But Pablo's dream was the most harrowing. In his nightmare, Pablo saw his mother collapse to the floor, seemingly lifeless, as a shadow loomed over her. He ran to her, but when he touched her, she disintegrated into black dust. He awoke abruptly, drenched in sweat, heart pounding. He ran to his parents' room, but seeing them asleep, he decided to tell his mother about the dream the next morning. Marta comforted him, but her expression betrayed that she too was beginning to feel the same strange presence. One afternoon, while cleaning upstairs, Marta found an old portrait in one of the rooms. The painting depicted a family, but their faces made her shudder. Their eyes were empty, devoid of humanity. Just as she considered leaving the room, a chilling whisper reached her ears: "We are the rightful owners of this house." Marta fled the room, her heart racing. The house began to change. The walls groaned at night, and the ceilings trembled as if someone were walking above them. Marta and Javier found doors appearing in hallways where none had been before. Windows fogged up inexplicably, and handprints appeared on polished surfaces, left by unseen hands. The children began hearing noises at night, as if something was crawling through the dark corridors. One morning, Marta found a yellowed letter on the kitchen table, written in an unfamiliar handwriting. When she opened it, her horror grew as she read, "The Garcias will be next. They must return what they've taken." At first, she thought it was a prank, but then she remembered the chest Javier had discovered. The silver medallion was the key to everything. The family had not only bought an old house, they had unearthed an ancient pact with dark forces that now sought to claim them. That night, while everyone slept, Javier was awakened by a noise from the upper floor. He thought it was one of the children, but when he went upstairs, the room was empty. Instead, he saw something far more terrifying. The house's walls seemed to move as if alive. The floor creaked under his feet, and shadows danced in the corners. Suddenly, a tall, skeletal figure with glowing eyes materialized before him. The figure whispered in his ear, "This is our home, not yours. You must leave." Paralyzed with fear, Javier tried to scream but couldn't. The figure touched him, and the floor beneath him opened, swallowing him into an abyss of darkness. The room fell silent, and the air grew cold. The next morning, Marta and the children woke up to find Javier missing. They searched the entire house in vain. Doors closed on their own, and the hallways seemed endless. The house had come alive, and every attempt to escape was futile. Laura saw a shadow staring at her from the end of the hallway. It was the same shadow she had seen before, but this time it didn't vanish. Instead, it began gliding toward her, slithering across the floor like a serpent. Laura screamed, but her voice caught in her throat. The shadow engulfed her and disappeared, taking her with it. In desperation, Marta ran to the basement, hoping to find a way out. But instead, she found something far worse. At the center of the basement was a hidden door concealed in shadows. When she opened it, she found a dark passage leading to a room with walls covered in strange symbols written in dried blood. At the center stood a pale woman staring intently at her. The woman spoke, her voice echoing like an eternal lament, "We've been waiting for you, Marta. The price for staying here has already been paid. Your children are now part of us." The door slammed shut behind Marta, trapping her in darkness. The house had claimed every member of the family, one by one. The walls of the House of Shadows waited, always watching, always seeking new victims. No one escaped the curse that dwelled within. And in the hills of Madrid, the mansion still stands, waiting for another family who won't be able to resist crossing its threshold.